Ike's hatred burned brighter, and she seized the opportunity to rid herself of Adamma entirely. In a callous act of cruelty, she decided to send Adamma to the king's palace to work as a servant, and Uke saw this as a chance to profit. She decreed that all the money Adamma earned would go directly to her, further enriching her and her children. Once upon a time, in the lush and vibrant village of Enugu, located in the eastern parts of Nigeria, lived a young maiden named Adamma. The village, nestled among rolling hills and surrounded by vibrant forests, was known for its breathtaking beauty. The villagers led simple lives, deeply connected to the land and its bounty. Adamma, whose name meant beautiful daughter, was a strikingly lovely girl with a kind heart, but her life had not been an easy one. Adamma's story began on a bittersweet note. Her mother died shortly after giving birth to her, leaving Adamma in the care of her father, Ike. Though grief-stricken, Ike was determined to raise his daughter with love. He was a hard-working farmer who owned vast acres of land that flourished under his diligent care. However, farming demanded long hours, and Ike often left home before dawn and returned late at night. To help him, his own mother stepped in, providing the nurturing care that little Adamma needed. Tragedy struck again a few years later when Ike's mother passed away from a severe illness. Once more, Ike found himself alone in raising Adamma. As he struggled to balance his responsibilities as a father and a farmer, he realized that Adamma needed more than just basic care. She needed love, attention, and companionship. Desiring a more stable home life for his daughter, Ike decided to remarry. He hoped that a new wife would not only help him manage the household, but also provide Adamma with siblings and a sense of family. Ike soon met Uke, a woman who at first glance seemed to be the perfect match. Uke was outwardly beautiful, with a radiant smile that charmed everyone in the village. Her presence brought a fresh energy to Ike's household, and the villagers praised Ike for finding such a lovely and seemingly kind-hearted wife. However, Uke's beauty was only skin deep. Behind her charming facade lurked a cold and cruel heart. From the moment she entered Ike's home, Uke harbored an inexplicable hatred for Adamma. She hid her true feelings well, masking her disdain with a veneer of kindness whenever Ike was around. But Ike's long hours at the farm meant that Uke was often left alone with Adamma. And during these times, her true nature surfaced. Uke treated Adamma as nothing more than a servant, forcing the young girl to do all the household chores while she doted on her own children. As the years passed, Adamma grew into a beautiful and graceful young woman, her inner strength and resilience shining through despite the hardships she faced. Meanwhile, Uke bore 4 children, whom she pampered and sheltered. Uke's first child, Uju, was just a few years younger than Adamma. But unlike Adamma, Uju was spoiled and lazy, unaccustomed to any form of work. Uke indulged her children, allowing them to live a carefree life, while Adamma bore the brunt of the household responsibilities. Despite her harsh life, Adamma found solace in one thing: her love for music. Singing was her escape from the trials she faced daily. Her voice, melodious and pure, was her only source of joy. Every evening, when Ike returned home, Uke would pretend to be the kind and nice woman and release Adamma from her chores, allowing her a brief moment of freedom. Adamma cherished these moments, using them to slip away into the nearby forest. The forest was her sanctuary. Among the towering trees and the gentle rustling of leaves, Adamma felt at peace. She would sing to the rhythm of nature, her voice blending harmoniously with the sounds of the forest. The serenity of the place allowed her to forget her troubles and embrace the beauty of the world around her. The forest was alive with the sound of birds, the chirping of insects, and the distant murmur of a hidden stream. It was a magical place that Adamma felt truly free. One day, as Adamma was singing her heart out in the forest, a small, brilliantly colored bird flew down and perched nearby. Intrigued by its beauty, Adamma tried to approach it, but the bird playfully hopped away. She reached out again, but the bird flew a little further, as if inviting her to follow. Captivated, Adamma followed the bird deeper into the forest. Her curiosity piqued. She felt an inexplicable connection to the bird, as if it were leading her somewhere important. After a short journey, the bird led her to a clearing she had never seen before. In the center of the clearing stood a small quaint hut, with a thin wisp of smoke curling up from it. Next to the hut was an open kitchen, where an old woman was cooking over a fire. The woman seemed to sense Adamma's presence and looked up, her eyes warm and inviting. "Are you lost, my daughter?" the old woman asked, her voice gentle and kind. Adamma looked around for the bird, but it had vanished, leaving her alone with the mysterious woman. She felt a strange mix of emotions: curiosity, trepidation, and a sense of peace she couldn't quite explain. Drawn by the woman's kindness, Adamma stepped closer, eager to discover who she was and what secrets this hidden corner of the forest held. Little did she know that this encounter would change her life in ways she could never have imagined. The woman, who introduced herself as Nneka, revealed herself to be a wise healer and the keeper of ancient secrets. She was said to have lived in the forest for many years, drawing strength from the natural world and using her knowledge to help those in need. She had sensed Adamma's sorrow and had sent the little bird to guide her to this place of healing and understanding. Over the next few weeks, Adamma visited Nneka often, sharing her burdens and learning from the old woman's wisdom. She found a deep sense of comfort and belonging in the small hut nestled within the forest. It became her sanctuary, a place where she could escape the harsh realities of her daily life. The old woman Nneka was not just a wise mentor to Adamma. She became the mother Adamma never had, the grandmother she had lost too soon, and the friend she desperately needed. Their bond grew stronger with each visit, and Adamma cherished the time she spent in the peaceful clearing, surrounded by nature's beauty and Nneka's calming presence. Nneka was a fountain of wisdom, and she shared many invaluable lessons with Adamma. She taught her the importance of love and compassion, emphasizing that true love meant accepting people for who they are, their flaws and all. Under Nneka's guidance, Adamma began to see the world with a new perspective, one filled with empathy and understanding. She learned to appreciate the beauty in the small things and to find joy even in difficult times. One fateful day, however, Adamma's world was shattered by tragedy again. Her father, Ike, went to the farm as usual. It was a routine day until it took a dark turn. He climbed a tall palm tree to harvest ripe palm fruits. Unknown to him, he disturbed a nest of soldier ants. In a desperate attempt to shake them off, he lost his balance and fell from the great height. The fall was fatal. Ike died instantly. The news of his death spread like wildfire, plunging the entire village into mourning. But for Adamma, the loss was profound and personal. She cried uncontrollably, overwhelmed by grief. Though her father had not always been present, she knew he loved her in his own quiet way. His mere presence had been a source of comfort and a silent assurance that she was not alone in the world. Now he was gone. She felt utterly lost and abandoned. The fear of what lay ahead without her father's protective presence gnawed at her heart. She dreaded the thought of being left at the mercy of Uke, whose disdain for her had always been thinly veiled. Adamma's fears were soon realized. With Ike gone, Uke no longer felt the need to hide her contempt. Her treatment of Adamma, already harsh, grew even crueler. Ike's hatred burned brighter, and she seized the opportunity to rid herself of Adamma entirely. In a callous act of cruelty, she decided to send Adamma to the king's palace to work as a servant. The king was known for paying his servants generously, and Uke saw this as a chance to profit. She decreed that all the money Adamma earned would go directly to her, further enriching her and her children. The news was a crushing blow to Adamma. She had already endured so much, and now she was being reduced to a common servant, stripped of any remaining dignity. Heartbroken and desperate, she fled to the one place where she felt safe, the little hut in the forest. There, in Nneka's comfort, she poured out her sorrow, her tears mingling with the earthy scents of the forest. Nneka listened patiently, her heart aching for the young girl, whom she had come to love like her own. Knowing that this might be their last meeting for a long time, Nneka reached for the ancient beaded necklace she always wore. With a solemn expression, she placed the necklace around Adama's neck. "This is a symbol of my love for you," she said. "Let this be a constant reminder that I am with you always," Nneka said, her voice gentle but firm. The beads glowed softly in the fading light, a symbol of the bond they shared and the strength Adama would need to face her new life. Tears welled up in Adama's eyes, but she managed a smile. "Thank you, Nneka. I will never forget you, and I'll come back to see you as soon as I can," she promised, her voice trembling with emotion. The necklace felt warm against her skin, a comforting presence that seemed to whisper of protection and love. Nneka embraced her, holding her tightly as if trying to pass all her strength and love into the young maiden. "Go well, my daughter," she whispered. "May you find favor in the eyes of the gods." The two shared a poignant moment, knowing that Adama's path was about to take a difficult turn. Yet, there was a sense of hope and resilience in the air, a belief that Adama would overcome whatever challenges lay ahead. Before leaving, Adama sang for Nneka one last time, her voice filled with the emotion of their impending separation. The old woman listened, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. As Adama's voice soared through the forest, a hauntingly beautiful melody that seemed to blend with the rustling leaves and the whispers of the wind. It was a song of farewell, of gratitude, and of unspoken love. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Adama knew it was time to go. She took one last look at the little hut, memorizing every detail, and then turned to face the future. With the necklace around her neck and Nneka's words in her heart, she walked away from the forest, ready to face the challenges that awaited her at the king's palace. The king's palace in Enugu was a marvel of architecture, a stark contrast to the simple mud huts that dotted the village. Built from sturdy stones and rocks, its walls were adorned with gold, gleaming under the sun like a beacon of wealth and power. The palace was not just a symbol of prosperity. It was a fortress of secrets, harboring mysteries that could shake its very foundation. At the heart of these secrets was King Afamefuna, a benevolent ruler who commanded the love and respect of his people. Known for his fairness and compassion, he was a king who cared deeply for his subjects, balancing kindness with the necessary firmness to maintain order. However, within the palace walls lurked a shadow of malice and envy. Ani, the king's stepbrother. Ani was the second son of the former king and was consumed by a bitter jealousy that had festered over the years. He resented King Afamefuna for inheriting the throne, believing that it should have been his right. This jealousy grew into an all-consuming hatred, fueling Ani's desire to seize the throne for himself and his sons. His plan was to make sure that the king was without an heir, so that when the king passed, the throne would automatically be passed down to his sons. He was not content to live in his brother's shadow and sought out dark and diabolical means to achieve his ambition. King Afamefuna and his beautiful queen Amaka had been married for many years, but their union was marred by a tragic inability to produce an heir. Queen Amaka had suffered multiple miscarriages, each loss a devastating blow to the couple's hopes. The palace, once filled with laughter and joy, grew heavy with the weight of their sorrow. Desperate for answers, the king and queen consulted the oracle, hoping for divine guidance. The oracle revealed a sinister truth. Someone was manipulating the queen's pregnancies, causing her to lose her children before they could be born. The seer warned that the queen must only consume food and drink prepared by herself or a trusted servant, lest the unseen enemy strike again. Determined to protect his wife and their future child, King Afamefuna took the precaution of overseeing every meal prepared for the queen, ensuring that no harm would come to her. However, unknown to them, the true enemy was closer than they realized. Ani, driven by his insatiable desire for power, was the mastermind behind the queen's miscarriages. He had enlisted the help of a malevolent witch doctor who provided him with a tasteless powder capable of terminating pregnancies. To carry out his wicked scheme, Ani employed the assistance of one of the queen's most trusted maids, offering her a substantial amount of money. Blinded by ambition and greed, the maiden agreed to assist him. She ensured that she was the one to serve the queen's meals, secretly sprinkling the deadly powder into the food, causing the tragic losses that had plagued the royal couple. When Ani realized that his initial plan was no longer effective due to the king's vigilance, he refused to give up. Instead, he concocted an even more sinister plot. He returned to the witch doctor, who this time provided him with a thin enchanted rope, imbued with a powerful curse. The curse was designed to deform any child in the queen's womb and prevent her from ever conceiving again. Ani handed the cursed rope to the maiden, instructing her to place it at a strategic spot where the queen would unknowingly cross over it. One morning, as the queen stepped out of her chamber, unaware of the evil lurking in her path, she crossed the nearly invisible rope. Almost immediately, she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, but it disappeared as quickly as it had come. The incident seemed insignificant at the time, but it was the beginning of a dreadful chapter in the palace's history. When the time came for the queen to give birth, the kingdom held its breath in anticipation, but their hopes were cruelly dashed when the child was born severely deformed. The palace was plunged into mourning as the king and the queen faced the harsh reality that their long-awaited heir was not fit to be king. The king's heart was shattered. He had endured so much, and now the gods seemed to have cursed him with a child who could not fulfill the royal duties. The queen too was devastated, but her love for her child remained unwavering. Despite the baby's condition, she nursed him with tender care, determined to protect him from the cruel world outside. The news of the royal couple's misfortune spread like wildfire through the village. While many villagers sympathized with the king, believing that he did not deserve such a fate, others were less kind. Some even mocked the king's misfortune, making wicked jokes at his expense. To shield their child from the harsh judgment and ridicule of the world, the king and the queen made the painful decision to confine him to a room within the palace. There, away from prying eyes, they provided him with all the care and love they could muster. The room became a sanctuary for the child, a place where he could grow in safety, surrounded by his parents' unwavering affection. Though the palace walls kept him hidden, the love within those walls was boundless. The queen spent every moment she could with her son, telling him stories, singing lullabies, and showering him with the warmth of a mother's love. Years passed, and Prince Ikenna, the disabled prince of Enugu, continued to grow and live within the confines of the palace walls. His room, though luxurious and filled with every comfort, had become a gilded cage. The queen had done everything in her power to ensure his well-being, providing him with the finest clothes, books, and toys. The maidens attended to his every need, ready to fulfill any request. Yet, despite the lavish surroundings and constant care, Prince Ikenna grew increasingly frustrated and bitter. His confinement, combined with his inability to walk, made him feel imprisoned. He longed for freedom, for the chance to experience life beyond his small world. But with each attempt to express his desires, he faced the harsh reality of his limitations. His legs were useless, and the outside world was as distant as the stars. As time went on, the prince's frustration turned to anger. He became aggressive, lashing out at anyone who approached him. The once patient maidens began to avoid him, wary of his unpredictable outbursts. They tiptoed around his room, delivering meals and necessities with averted eyes, eager to leave as quickly as possible. The young prince, feeling abandoned and misunderstood, retreated further into his despair. He hated his life, often wishing for the gods to take him away and end his suffering. To those around him, he was a tragic figure, an object of pity, rather than a person with feelings and desires. Everything changed when Adama arrived at the palace. As a new maid, she was assigned to the daunting task of caring for the prince. The senior maid instructed her on the routines and cautions, warning her of the prince's unpredictable behavior. Like everyone in the village, Adama had heard stories about the reclusive prince, but nothing could prepare her for the first meeting. As she entered the dimly lit room, she saw a young man with a strikingly handsome face, marred not by his disability, but by the pain and anger etched into his features. Despite his condition, his handsomeness was undeniable, a stark contrast to the aura of despair surrounding him. Adama felt a pang of sorrow for the prince. She understood the helplessness he must feel, confined to a single room, isolated from the world. Her own experiences of loneliness and hardship had given her a deep empathy for those who suffered. As she approached with a tray of food, she tried to offer a warm smile, but the prince's response was immediate and fierce. With a shout, he grabbed the tray and hurled it across the room, sending the dishes crashing to the floor. His voice rose in a wild scream, echoing through the chamber like the roar of a caged animal. The shards of broken plates lay scattered around them. Initially startled, Adama quickly composed herself as she looked into the prince's eyes. She noticed something that the others had overlooked: a glimmer of tears. Beneath the fury and frustration, she saw a soul in torment. In that moment, she felt a deep compassion for the prince. A voice, soft and familiar, like old Neka's, whispered in her ear, urging her to sing. Without hesitation, Adamma opened her mouth and began to sing, a soothing melody. Her voice, gentle and melodious, filled the room, weaving through the air like a warm breeze. As the song washed over him, Prince Ikenna's anger ebbed away. His tense body relaxed and his eyes softened immediately. Captivated by the beauty of Adamma's voice, it was as if her song had reached into his soul, touching a part of him that had long been neglected. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, he felt a sense of peace. When she finished, a profound silence settled in the room. The prince, usually so quick to lash out, looked at her with a newfound curiosity and calmness. "What is your name?" he asked, his voice gentle. Adamma bowed respectfully, her eyes meeting his with a kindness he hadn't known before. "My name is Adamma, my prince." For the first time in his adult life, Prince Ikenna smiled. A small, tentative smile, but a smile nonetheless. It was a moment of a breakthrough, a crack in the wall of despair that had surrounded him. Unlike others who only saw him as a tragic figure, Adamma had treated him as a person, recognizing his pain and responding with compassion. From that day forward, Prince Ikenna insisted that only Adamma attend to him. He refused food and care from anyone else, making it clear that he was the only one who understood him. The other palace maids, bewildered by the sudden change in the prince's demeanor, whispered among themselves, wondering what magic Adamma possessed. Her soothing presence and calming voice seemed to have worked a miracle, calming the storm that raged within the prince. Adamma's unique bond with the prince did not go unnoticed. She quickly gained favor with the king and queen, who were grateful for the peace she brought to their troubled son. In a few short weeks, Adamma rose in the palace's ranks, achieving a status that many maids who had served for years had never reached. Her gentle nature and empathy made her invaluable, not just as a servant, but as a source of comfort and joy to the prince. Adamma spent her days with the prince, tending to his needs and providing companionship. She sang to him her melodies, becoming a balm for his troubled soul. She also told him stories, transporting him to far-off lands and forgotten times, sparking his imagination and kindling a spark of hope in his heart. Slowly, the prince began to open up, sharing his thoughts and feelings with Adamma. Her presence became the highlight of his days, and his once grim existence brightened with her songs and stories. The prince's newfound happiness was evident to all who saw him. He smiled more often, a sight that brought tears to the queen's eyes. For so long, she had despaired over her son's fate, but now she saw a glimmer of hope. The once dark room, which had felt like a prison, began to fill with warmth and laughter. The prince, though still confined to his room, began to feel a sense of connection to the world beyond his walls. As the days passed, Adamma began to see a side of Prince Ikenna that no one else had ever witnessed. Beneath his pain and anger, he was naturally intelligent and surprisingly funny. His sharp wit and clever observations often made her laugh, bringing a lightness to their time together. One day, after she finished singing a particularly soulful song, she noticed an unusual silence from the prince. Concerned, she reached out, her voice gentle and soothing. "What is wrong, my prince? You look sad." Ikenna looked at her with a tenderness that made her heart ache. "I see pain in your eyes when you sing, Adamma," he said softly. "It's as if you pour your soul into the music. Tell me about you." Adamma was taken aback. No one had ever asked her about her feelings or noticed the depth of her emotion in her songs. Only old Nneka had shown her such understanding. She felt a warmth spread through her heart, a mix of gratitude and love for this young man, who despite his own struggles could see her pain. She decided to lay herself bare, sharing the sad details of her life, the loss of her parents, the cruelty of her stepmother, Uke, and the solace she found in the forest with old Nneka. As she spoke, a wave of sadness washed over him. He realized that he felt something deep for her, something more than friendship, but he was afraid to express his feelings, knowing his condition made him feel unworthy. How could he, a man confined to a room and considered an outcast, ever hope to have a future with someone as wonderful as Adamma? Despite his doubts, the bond between them grew stronger. In Adamma, Prince Ikenna found a true friend and confidant, someone who saw beyond his physical limitations to the kind, thoughtful person inside. She, in turn, found in him a caring soul, someone who genuinely understood her and valued her for who she was. She wished that others could see the sweet, intelligent man she had come to know. As their days continued, Adamma felt her heart soften towards him. She began to realize that her feelings were not just of friendship, but something deeper. One day, unable to keep his emotions bottled up any longer, Prince Ikenna decided to speak his heart. "Adamma," he began, his voice trembling with emotion. Since the day you came into my life, everything has changed. I now look forward to each new day because of you. For the first time, I've learned to love myself. You are a gift from the gods. The first gift I've ever received. If circumstances were different, I would ask you to be my wife. But you deserve better than what I can offer. His voice broke, tears glistening in his eyes. He struggled to continue, but the words seemed to fail him. Adama moved closer, her eyes filled with compassion. She took his hands in hers, feeling the warmth and sincerity in his touch. I see you, my prince, she said, her voice steady. I see a man who truly cares for me, who has a beautiful soul. Any woman who marries you would be lucky. You are the second gift life has given me, and I cherish our friendship deeply. She reached for the bead necklace she always wore, the first gift she had ever received from old Nneka. With a tender smile, she unclasped the bead and held it out to him. This was given to me by someone who showed me love when I needed it the most. Today, I want to give it to you as a symbol of my love and our friendship. As she placed the necklace around Prince Ikenna's neck, something miraculous happened. A bright light filled the room, illuminating every corner with a warm golden glow. The air seemed to shimmer with energy, and for a moment, everything was bathed in a divine aura. The prince let out a loud shout and collapsed to the ground. Adamma gasped, her heart racing with fear. Had something terrible happened? Had she inadvertently harmed him? But as the light faded, a transformation took place before her eyes. Prince Ikenna's leg, once thin and twisted, grew strong and straight. The abnormalities that had marked his body disappeared as if they had never existed. He stood up, his eyes wide with shock and disbelief. For the first time in his life, he could stand on his own 2 feet. Tears streamed down his face as he looked at Adamma, who stood in stunned silence. She was speechless, unable to comprehend what had just occurred. The once disabled prince was now whole, his body restored to perfect health. The weight of the moment was overwhelming, and she felt a mix of joy, awe, and gratitude. The gods had answered a prayer neither of them had dared to speak aloud. In that instant, they both knew that their lives had changed forever. As the reality of the miracle sank in, Prince Ikenna reached out and pulled Adamma into a tight embrace. The room, once a place of confinement and sorrow, now felt like a sanctuary filled with hope and love. They stood together holding each other, their hearts full of unspoken words and shared dreams. Unknown to Adamma, the bead was no ordinary one. It contained a very powerful magic that could break any spell and protect anyone who wears it from harm. The moment Prince Ikenna transformed, Ani was jolted awake from his restless sleep in his own wing of the palace. he felt an unsettling shift in the air, a thickness that clung to his skin, signaling something extraordinary had happened. Suddenly, a loud shout echoed through the palace walls, reverberating like a thunderclap. Panic gripped Ani's heart as he rushed towards the source of the commotion. When he reached the king's court, his eyes widened in disbelief. There, standing tall and whole, was Prince Ikenna, the very person he had worked so hard to keep crippled and hidden. And his smile whirled in confusion and terror. "How is this possible?" he muttered, his voice choked with fear. The realization hit him like a wave. All his meticulous plotting, the dark charms, the years of deceit, it was all for nothing. As if a switch had been flipped, he stormed into the court, his eyes wild with madness. "Impossible! Impossible! This cannot be!" he screamed, his voice cracking. The entire court turned to him, stunned by his sudden outburst. His wife and children looked on, bewildered by his frenzied state. And his shouting escalated into hysterical laughter, a sound that sent chills down the spines of everyone present. "I am finished," he cried out. "He told me the charm could not be broken." And his body trembled violently, as if consumed by an internal fire. In a fit of madness, he began tearing at his clothes, ripping them off in a frenzy. The horrified onlookers watched as Ani spiraled further into insanity, ranting and raving incoherently. As if possessed, Ani started confessing his dark deeds, the words tumbling out in a torrent of guilt and despair. He recounted how he had schemed against his own family, poisoned the queen's pregnancies, and cursed Prince Ikenna to a life of misery. The villagers who had gathered gasped in shock and disgust. Whispers of betrayal and curses filled the air. Some spat on the ground in disdain, others crossed themselves in horror. And his disgrace was complete. He had become a pariah, a villain revealed in all his wretchedness. The king and queen stood in stunned silence, their faces pale with disbelief and sorrow. The weight of Ani's betrayal crushed them, a brother's treachery that had caused years of pain and suffering. They looked at Prince Ikenna, who clung to Adamma, tears streaming down his cheeks. The young man, once confined to the shadows, now stood in the light of truth. Despite the sorrow etched on his face, there was a profound sense of relief and gratitude. His long nightmare was finally over. The palace buzzed with the news of the miraculous transformation and Ani's confession. Word spread like wildfire throughout the village, drawing the crowds eager to see the restored prince. Among them was Uke, Adama's stepmother. She had heard the rumors but couldn't believe them until she saw for herself. As she arrived at the palace and saw Prince Ikenna standing with Adamma by his side, a storm of emotions raged within her. Anger, jealousy, disbelief. Despite all her efforts to undermine Adamma, the girl had still risen above her circumstances. Uke left the palace, seething, unable to fathom the turn of events. Inside the palace, joy and relief replaced the air of sorrow and despair. The king and queen danced their hearts, bursting with gratitude for the restoration of their son and the end of his suffering. For her kindness and love, they thanked Adamma, but she humbly credited the gods for their fortune. Prince Ikenna, not wasting another moment, took Adamma's hands in his and with a voice choked with emotion, asked her to be his wife and long-life companion. Tears of joy filled Adamma's eyes as she accepted. Overwhelmed by the love and the kindness that had suddenly flooded her life. What had started as a journey of hardship had led her to a place of honor and love. Her stepmother had sent her to the palace to suffer, but the gods had smiled upon her. The royal family, however, could not overlook the gravity of Annie's crimes. The king, feeling betrayed and unable to trust Annie's family any longer, decreed their exile from the palace. They were sent to live among the villagers. Unfortunately for them, the villagers treated them as outcasts. Unable to bear the shame and isolation, Annie's family soon left the village, seeking refuge elsewhere. Meanwhile, Annie himself wandered the village a madman. His once sharp mind was now clouded with madness. Children taunted him, singing cruel songs and pelting him with stones until he ran to hide. His downfall was complete when his lifeless body was found in the streets, a tragic end to a life consumed by jealousy and hatred. As was customary for those who died in disgrace, his body was thrown into the evil forest, unworthy of a proper burial. The palace once again became a place of joy and celebration. Prince Ikenna and Adamma's wedding was a grand affair, a feast that filled the hearts of all who attended. However, not everyone shared in their joy. Uke and her children stood on the sidelines, their faces twisted with envy. They watched in disbelief as Adamma, the orphaned girl they had once mistreated and looked down upon, was now being honored and exalted by the gods. Uke's heart burned with jealousy. Unable to accept that the girl she had tried to suppress had risen to such heights, what she had intended for Adamma's downfall had instead become a stepping stone to greatness. As Adamma stood beside the prince, radiating beauty and grace, Uke could hardly contain her bitterness. The sight of Adamma, now the future queen of Enugu, was a bitter pill to swallow. It was as if the universe had turned Uke's cruelty on its head, transforming it into a tale of triumph and justice. The young woman she had sought to belittle was now a symbol of resilience and the power of goodness, shining brighter than ever. The celebration continued, oblivious to Uke's silent resentment. The feast was lavish, with tables laden with delicacies, and the sound of traditional drums filled the air. Dancers in vibrant attire twirled and leaped, their movements full of joy and vitality. The villagers joined in the merriment, their cheers and applause a testament of their love for the royal couple. It was a day of pure happiness, a day when the kingdom rejoiced in the love and unity that had triumphed over adversity. After the joyous marriage ceremony, Adama and Prince Ikenna made their way to the heart of the forest to visit old Nneka, the wise woman who had been a source of comfort and guidance to Adama. Adama's heart was filled with anticipation. She couldn't wait to share the incredible turn of events with Nneka and introduce her to the prince. She wanted to express her gratitude and show her how the bead Nneka had given her had miraculously healed Prince Ikenna. It was a joyous reunion she had eagerly awaited. However, as they arrived at the familiar clearing, Adama felt a sudden pang of unease. The place was eerily quiet, and to her astonishment, the small hut where Nneka had lived was gone. The clearing, once vibrant with life, now stood silent and empty. It was as if the hut had never existed. Adama searched frantically, hoping to find some trace of the woman who had been like a guardian angel to her. But there was nothing, not a single footprint, not a hint of the life that had been there. It was then that a realization dawned on her. The truth hit her like a gentle breeze, bringing clarity and understanding. Old Nneka was no ordinary woman. She was the good spirit of the forest, sent to watch over her. The forest had listened to her cries and had manifested Nneka to bring light and love into her life. The mysterious old woman had appeared when Adama needed her the most, offering kindness and wisdom. Now, her mission complete, she had vanished back into the ether, leaving behind only the warmth, her memory. As Adama stood there, holding Prince Ikenna's hand, tears welled up in her eyes. They were tears of gratitude and awe. She felt a profound connection to the divine forces that had guided her journey. The gods had not abandoned her. They had been with her all along, guiding her steps and protecting her from harm. The bead, the transformation, the love she had found, it was all a part of a greater plan. Prince Ikenna squeezed her hand, offering silent support. He too felt the weight of the moment. He knew that the woman who had saved him and the love they now shared were gifts from a higher power. The forest, once a place of refuge and secrets, had become a sacred space of revelation and understanding. With a deep breath, Adama wiped away her tears. It was time to embrace the new chapter of her life. A chapter filled with love, hope, and happiness. She and Prince Ikenna would honor the blessings they had received, living a life of gratitude and joy. Though Nneka was gone, her spirit would live on in their hearts. Hand in hand, they left the forest, ready to face whatever the future held. They walked away from the clearing, not with sorrow, but with a profound sense of peace and purpose. The forest had given them its blessing, and now it was their turn to spread that light and love in the world. Their journey together was just beginning, and they knew with every step that they were not alone. The gods had always been with them, and they always would be. Hey lovers, welcome to my space and thank you for watching my stories. If you enjoyed listening to this story as much as I enjoyed creating it, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you have not done so already. I'll have to go now, but I'll hope to see you in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.